Hey there, just Matt speaking. Hope you're well. Just a quick video for you today, really about women and resistance training. It's a massive myth, and it really came home to me yesterday when I was just having a quick chat with a guy who's going to be getting married in August, and it sort of confirmed really some of the myths that are still out there for me. His wife-to-be is trying to get in great shape for her wedding, and he started to talk about some of the things that she was doing. Some of them are pretty radical and a bit concerning, really. So I thought, she's probably not the only one out there who's sort of thinking in this way, and perhaps just misinformed by sort of the media and other sort of socially acceptable trends. So what I thought I'd do is just allay some of those myths for you to start with, and we're going to start with myth number 1 today, which is the fear of getting big. Now, resistance training for women does not need to be in any way, shape, or form concerning when it comes to the fear of getting big. In fact, resistance training helps massively with bone density and also the muscle mass, which is vital for later on in life as well. So one of the major problems is obviously the media, and apparently guys find ladies who are really skinny attractive, and I'm not going to get personal on how I feel about that, because that's not really the point of this presentation and this little quick video. But in actual fact, there have been a fair few studies done, and most and in those studies, one particular study found that 98% of men actually preferred a lady who was fit and in shape to a lady who was skinny. And that was from the National Strength and Conditioning Association, a gentleman called Kramer who found that. There's been lots of other studies as well. And I think there's lots of misconceptions out there with regards to the training and how to train to get in great shape, and perhaps using weights is going to make me look too masculine, blah 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 blah. And what's actually happening as a result of that is that ladies, when they go into the gym or go into their training environment, are using weights that are far too light and resistance that are too light to really elicit any bone density improvement. Now, cardiovascular exercise is great in terms of sort of the benefits for your heart, lungs, and obviously the way you feel. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't give you that kind of bone density improvement that you really need, because bone responds to strain, compression, stress, and all these are kind of positive stresses within them. Okay, and it's massively important for the adolescent girls at that time of their development, laying down as much bone density as they can to basically prevent the effects of osteoporosis later in life. So on that, I must actually mention as well that there are plenty of studies out there that have shown that ladies over 40, premenopausal, have got fantastic benefits from strength training in terms of the lay down of bone density and muscle mass as well. We're going to come to that in a second, a bit later on. So what we need to be aware of is that we're going to come to hormones in a minute, but fat storage for ladies tends to be more subcutaneous, so underneath the skin, hips and the arms. Now, whilst that is, you may think, well, that's really not what I want. That's no benefit to me. Guys tend to store it sort of inner thoracic, so in around the organs, around the chest, and around the stomach as well. And in actual fact, that's more dangerous. So having more visceral fat, which is within those tissues, is more dangerous. That doesn't really solve the problem for a lot of women, because it's the way they look and the way they want and the way they feel about themselves that's as a result of this subcutaneous fat. And subcutaneous means just below the skin. Okay, so the first place that we lose it tends to be under the skin. That's why women get great results when they start using resistance training, as we've seen. Okay, and what actually happens then is that you'll lose body fat and you actually see more definition in your muscles. And I think sometimes people get confused by, oh, my muscles are getting too big. Now, we've proven to clients as well, we've done measurements with them to actually show that they haven't increased in size. All they've done is they've lost body fat. And if you think about body fat as like cotton wool, okay, it fills up a lot of space, but it's not particularly dense. Okay, whereas your muscles are more dense. Okay, they're more dense in terms of the space they fill up. So that's why weight is not always a good indication. Obviously, if you've got lots of body fat to lose, weight may be a motivating factor to start with. But what we're getting to here is that the first place you will lose it is underneath the skin, and therefore you will start to see more muscular shape, and that is obviously what is attractive. Okay, you find that looking nice and lean and having good body and good muscle tone is what we want, whether you're a male or a female. So moving on to sort of muscle fibre size and how that affects. So the female muscle fibre size will always be slightly smaller than a male. Okay, and obviously there's differences within that, and obviously different guys, different sizes, different women, different sizes, but the muscle fibre size is always generally smaller than a male. So yes, it can get bigger, and that's called hypertrophy, and that's not a bad thing. Okay, so if we increase the muscle tissue size, okay, it's not a bad thing. And and as women age, they tend to have a lower muscle mass. So what happens then is the fibre size reduces even more. So it's even more important to make sure you're doing strength training around this time. Okay, because what we want to do is to kind of avoid the life task becoming hard. So walking up the hill, picking up the shopping, grabbing hold of the kids, those kind of things, like carrying different objects in awkward, that might be more awkward. Okay, so what we're trying to do is just obviously avoid the situation where you get to people are getting to sort of 60 to 70 years old, or nearer 70. In fact, some of the studies are showing people who are ending up in nursing homes. They're perfectly healthy in terms of all the other measures, but because they lack the strength, they're some of these things, they're ending up, they can't get off the toilet or whatever. They're ending up in nursing homes, and they're ending up with hip fractures because they can't stand on their own feet. So that's what we're dealing with, in terms of the muscle fibre size, and we need to really keep encouraging women to do strength training so that when they get older, this doesn't become such a problem, because it is a problem, and somebody's got to do something about that. So moving to hormones now. So testosterone. Okay, so predominantly considered a male hormone. Okay, it's the dominant hormone in males. But women also secrete it through the adrenal glands. Okay, and this is required for protein synthesis. Now, without getting too scientific, because that's not what this video is about, we all need to have protein synthesis going on within our body, because that's what helps with growth and repair. Okay, now a woman who, typically a woman who will have 20 to 30 times lower testosterone levels than a male. Okay, and actually they have actually shown, so therefore getting big and bulky is really difficult, as you can see. Steroids, they've done studies where people have taken anabolic steroids, and they still find that they don't even work every time. So in women, so that again goes to prove that even with the addition of anabolic steroids, still doesn't have this kind of bulking effect that everybody's really worried about. Now the thing is with the muscles is that if you don't use the muscles, the motor neurons that are sent from the brain to the muscles will die off. Okay, use it or lose it. It's exactly right. So what we want to do is just make sure we continually use those muscle fibers in movements that kind of are relative to life. Okay, so that's why sitting in a gym, perhaps better than doing nothing, but at the same time, can we make these things more functional? Can we use movements that look like we do in real life? Okay, and help improve hip mobility and help improve core strength and strength that we actually use when we're on our feet. Okay. So, and what's actually happening in the media now is that it's become so popular that women use light weights, okay, and this myth that there is that women should use light weights, that it's even happening in kind of like the personal training environment, and people are kind of, you see it in magazines, personal trainers with female clients lifting light weights. Let me tell you, the ladies who are kind of using resistance training in their training are the ones who are going to get in the best shape. Okay, we see it all the time. So within your program, what you need to be doing is you need to have some days that are heavy. Okay, now the way that we do our programs, we run all of our programs on a 4 to 5 week cycle. Okay, and we have a progression through that 4 to 5 week cycle. Now you might not follow a kind of a very linear process like that. You might do some sessions each week which are heavy, some sessions which are slightly easier. But you definitely need to be looking at having some core exercise. And when I say core in this context, I don't mean abdominal. I mean exercises that use multiple joints, ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, all in one particular movement, and using multiple big muscle groups, okay, to elicit the change that you want to get, okay, losing body fat, improving energy, and making sure that you're increasing your muscle mass and bone density. And then we're going to go over to gender differences. Sorry, just got a little bit lost there on that one. So gender differences. Now, there are gender differences when it comes to training, but the main one that we need to be aware of, we've already mentioned muscle fibre size, and we've already mentioned a little bit on hormonal profile, but when we look at the Q angle at the hip, okay, so what the implications for that really stem around foot positioning for the squat. Now, obviously, if you've got a good coach, he'll help you with your foot positioning, so when you're doing your squats, you're in the right place and you're going to remain safe. But the Q angle is really to do with the angle of the bone in your thigh, the femur, and the way it comes out from the hip. Okay, it's different in men and women, and depending on how wide your hips are. Okay, so that's just something you need to be aware of there. Obviously, women, doing weight is going to be massive in terms of injury prevention. There's been all sorts of studies done with ACL injuries, and that's linked again with the Q angle and the pressure at the knee. So ladies who do strength training, less injuries around the knee as a result of that. Okay. And obviously that'll just help you to be more functional throughout life. Okay, so doing everything. So whether it be messing around with the kids at the weekend, going around doing all the jobs that you have to do, playing sport at the weekends, taking up different challenges, whatever it may be, going on holiday, travelling around the world, doing different things, just remaining more functional throughout your life. So anyway, that's just a little snapshot of women in resistance training. And quite frankly, if you have got a program and you're not including resistance training in your program, then you are really choosing a worse option. You do have this option to do resistance training, and anybody who knows is worth their salt will know and show you how to do resistance training in a progressive manner. As we mentioned, we do ours in a 4 to 5 week cycle with all of our clients, but I'm sure that any other coach will be able to, who knows what they're doing, will be able to help you out with that. Okay, so I hope you have a good day, and I hope that was useful for you. Bye-bye.